Well, hello, folks. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA Wrap. We take a look at these markets. We do it from a neoclassical perspective each time. We ask ourselves just the one question: what happened today, and what does it tell us about the coming ones? Do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday. Broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube under the channel L.A. Little. Do a show on Sunday evenings also, a weekly wrap. We broaden it out. We look at the weekly, we look at the monthlies, try to get a little bit broader perspective on what's happening, and also do some morning takes. And if you want to keep up with all that stuff, just reach up on the right hand side up there and subscribe, and you'll get that content notification each time content is pushed. So that's kind of the beginning here. Let's get going. What happened today? If we look at the numbers, we started to try to give it up, but man, it is a hard job to give anything up in this market. 0.5% on the NDX, on the IXIC, the NASDAQ composite, and that's despite Apple up 2% today. So you had some decent selling taking place. Russell was the leader on the upside to start with, ends up roughly flat. S&P's a little bit down, and same with the Dow. IBM, of course, earnings last night really sucked wind. Tonight you got Chipotle biting a bullet. You also had, I think it was Charles Schwab yesterday. Trying to think of who else it was. There were 2 or 3 other ones. Hogg this morning, Harley Davidson. So when you miss here, you miss and you get hammered. And when you make, you make a few. And so far this earnings season hasn't rewarded equally compared to how it's punished. Elsewhere overseas, Nikkei up, looks like this evening is up. And I don't think Hong Kong is trading yet. It looks like the Nikkei maybe has just started. I can't tell, actually. Maybe that was from last night. Gold was up 0.5%. We had... Actually, we had those failures. Remember last night we looked at the CAX was a failure. Well, it got its pullback today, 0.5%. And tonight it looks like the DAX failed. We'll look at that one together. Okay, so let's pop over and look at these charts. So if we take a peek at what we got here, let's pop into, well, we can just start with the dollar since we're here. So the dollar is, I was looking at these as we started. Dollar is popping back up into the range here, but man, there's nothing happening. I saw a quote today, and it kind of applies to the dollar, but it applies to everything. And it was by my friend Alan Farley. Farley said, at this rate, we're going to have zero volume by November 9th, I think he said. The way it's tailing off right now. Let's take a look at the indexes. So I wish I could tell you it was a clean sweep, and I could give you a great direction here. Last night we did get a failure off this high. 2034 is the number. Basically we got over it, and we did it here. 2034.45 yesterday. Again, it was 08, and then again today we pushed even higher. 2039. Where do we close? 2030.77. So in other words, we go over, we go back under. We still have less volume. We're testing, we're failing, but we're not pulling back. And today, even though it's an over-under, you actually have more volume, so you really can't count that. But really, it's just the test failure at this level. So again, S&P testing can't get over the highs, or more accurately said, can't get over the breakdown bars high. Moving over to the NASDAQ. So over here, you have kind of a nice push again. And in this case, I believe we have the ABCD structure here to take us back to those highs. I haven't got there inside day to day, so no tell here. And remember, this was a full retest regen, that high. So you're still up there, still testing, or trying to push back up there to test it again, which would be the second test. NDX stronger, but also an inside day to day, a little bit more volume. Tested over the swing point high yesterday, got over it. That top was 44.5066. You close it at 44.38. So you go over, you test again. Even though you got over it yesterday, again, I always like to see at least one bar afterwards, and you didn't get it today. So that one's kind of a up in the air call now. Then finally moving to the small caps. The small caps are still testing this kind of a ledge here and can't get over it. They test over the high again today, back under. They actually have a little bit more volume as well. And if I was a classical guy, I probably would be drawing in all these cups and handles, right? I don't know exactly how to draw it, but it's this sort of a thing, right? You kind of got a cup and handle situation going on. If I understand this right, you would have to get up here to actually break out of it. I guess one could draw it somewhere else. But it's kind of a bullish pattern, and people are paying attention to that. What's important to me is, can you get over the level? Do buyers show up at higher price or not? They're testing in this big volume bar on the way down, and they just can't seem to get over it, at least not yet. If we turn to the sectors, the sector that has been having problems and continues to have problems is the biotech sector. And the biotech sector has got this little range thing going on, and it just can't seem to get out of it. It tested up yesterday almost to a swing point high. Today just gives it up, right? Comes back down. No volume on the give up, but you're in this lower range, and you still have this bar that you're trying to test again with this high volume push down there. And so I suspect if we get another day down, if we get back inside these bars and another day down into here, this IBB is finally going to try to make the run to the bottom. That's the weak link. If you look for the strong one is over in the socks, right? Because over here you're just hanging at the highs. So you had this big push up off of earnings, and since then, right, it's 4 days of just hang at the highs. You got these two swing point highs over here, and you're hanging at them. If you bring over your weekly and look at it, clean this up, you can see it's hanging up here, and it's into this swing point low, and it's doing a bearish retest regenerate. First time back, more than 6 bars. Actually, when I look at this more closely, that's not quite true. Your break was here, and you tested the very next bar. So this is actually the second test as you come back. And so, probability is not as high that you'll hold, which means you'll probably get to the other side. That's about 92.88 on that number. Everybody keeps wondering about rotation. Here's the materials sector, right? Nice big spike up, kind of hanging. That one looks pretty good until you look over here and you see you're coming into some high volume lows. And that, of course, is what's stymieing this. If you look at the energy sector, you got basically the same thing. Big push up, sideways move. What is it doing? Well, it can't even get to them, but it's trying to get back up to a swing point low. Financials today. This actually was the last 2 days was positive here. Today it tried to get over this high, 23.69. Remember yesterday it was butting up against it. Today it did, 23.70, closes under it. So it's a test failure of the highs. We'll see if that one pulls back as a result. Industrials pushing up. Nothing bad there. They're just coming into swing point lows. And this is really what you're seeing everywhere. Almost everything you look at, you've got these bearish retest regenerates that are just starting to try and fire on the way back up. So, the story is there's just a lot of resistance on the way back up. This is the natural place that people will want to sell. It only makes sense, right? If you bought anything back here, you're underwater. Where are you going to sell it? Well, you're going to sell it where you can, and that is you're going to sell it as it comes back, something close to break even, and that's what everybody is looking at, I suspect, at this particular point in time. That is how resistance forms and what it really is. Two strongest sectors, technology and discretionary. Most people don't talk about discretionary, but it has definitely been a strong sector coming after these highs on this retest, not on the retest, but on this the breakout now on this ABCD structure. That's the projection. Take it right back to the prior highs, and that would also be the prior highs here on the weekly. So the strongest sector by far is the discretionary. Let's go over to the world markets, and what we had there last night, if you remember, was the CACs. Even though the DAX didn't show it, the CAC showed a breakdown. Not so much a breakdown, but a test failure, right? So let's start back up with what we saw last night with the CACs. So the test failure was here. You went over this price point back underneath it. You got a little pullback today. Again, no real volume. What this is doing is it's testing again against this high on the way back down. trying to get back under it. Now, as it stands right now, you essentially have just a big range down here at these lows, right? There's kind of two dividing area there. You're up towards the top of it. You're trying to take it up to another level, right? Whether you can do that or not is a different question, but right now you're hanging up there, and that's what that one looks like. If we move over and look at the DAX, so the German market, right, this is the big one. You go over, let me see, if you go over under 10,205, you get the 10, no, you didn't get to it. So it's an inside day, looks like, let me see what the low was here. Yeah, inside day today, 84, no, it was under, so it barely got under. So volume just tails off to nothing. You know, you got the ECB coming up, so nothing happening there. So really, there's not much to talk about on these last 2 days. The real story is this bar. This is what it's testing, right? That's where all the volume is. And it's testing up there, and it's got absolutely nothing. Nobody's willing to step up and buy it yet. Now, in all these markets, you know, I don't want to sound too negative, but in all these markets, if there is a reason to buy, let's say the ECB comes out and does more QE and does a kamikaze Japan style QE, right? This thing's probably going to jump. And when it does, what is it going to do? Well, there's a lot of stops starting to build up here from that bar. And so those stops are going to trigger, and you're going to get a quick spike up, test the swing point high, potentially get over it, and maybe run up to the next resistance zone. So, you know, that's the setup from a bullish perspective. That's the most promising, right? In that in many of these markets, they've set up in such a way that you could get that push. And when people draw the cups and handles, that's really what they're doing, right? That's what they're looking at, right? They're looking at the case here where you have this kind of a straightaway, you know, pattern where you've got price pushing up against a flat bar, if I can get it drawn in right, about like that, right? You got price pushing up some sort of a flat bar. It's come up, it hits it, can't get over it, comes up and tries to do it again, and it's just kind of hanging there. You know, if it hangs there long enough and you can't break it down, usually something will come along and you'll break it out, and then the stops have built up, which is what triggers it, right? And it tries to project forward. And so that's, you know, from a classical TA standpoint, that's the way it reads. On a neoclassical TA standpoint, you're looking for price, right, to confirm with some sort of a volume spike, hopefully, right, to give it more confidence, over some known area of resistance. And in this case, it's this bar. You can see it clearly. That's what it's testing against. If it can get over it and stay over it for a couple bars, it can move farther. And so that's the setup in the situation there. So that's there. Over in Asia, still nothing really happening. If we're going to look at anything, we'd look at Shanghai. Shanghai just keeps inching up, back up towards these swing point lows, and it's doing it into this big swing point low here and trying to get back up to that one. So, you know, as we talked about before, the last time we spoke about this on a weekly bar, this is the bar to me that would tell you something. You get over 35.07, then we can start talking about a bottom, right? Hasn't gotten there, but if it does, I mean, that to me would mean a lot more than what we're seeing right now. So it's not that far away. It's inching up there. It's going to try to get over it. And this low is 35.40, and go back to here, 35.07. So somewhere in that area, if you can get over that, then I might start thinking about this as something I really would want to participate in again. Until then, you know, this is just a bounce. I mean, you come down 35-40%, you can bounce, and that's exactly what they're doing. Okay, so what do we got? If we think about everything, if you think about where you're at, you know, you have mixed signals one more time. It's not clean cut. You got the ECB, you got Canada tomorrow, you had Trudeau win tonight, you got Canada tomorrow with their central bank, whatever they're going to do, and then you've got the ECB on Thursday. Those are the big events. You've got all the earnings that keep coming out. These earnings are not helping this market, but so far they're just rotating, folks. Nobody wants to leave this market. They haven't in the past. They still don't. Everybody thinks the bottom is in, and maybe everybody's right. Maybe this really was the bottom. Maybe that's all there was. 12% down, and now we go to new highs. You know, it's possible. But you've got some huge resistance You're coming back into areas that you know have high probability sells on them. I suspect before this is done, we're going to see this thing retrace, and it's going to make people think that maybe this isn't the bottom and there might be more to go. That's it for tonight. Have yourself a great one. Thanks for joining me. Tell a friend. Please tell two. I'm LA. This is and was your daily NeoTA Wrap. Have a great one. I'll see you next time. Good night.